Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Daychuck with Queen Bee Creations. Thanks for tuning in. If you like what you see, I invite you to hit the like, hit the share, hit the subscribe button, just go nuts pushing buttons. Today we are going to be doing a shutter craft. Now, I was saving up this craft because I was waiting to get the new DIY all-in-one cottage colors curated by Jamie Ray vintage in. If you've ever painted shutters before, then you know the pain of painting two coats and then painting on a sealer and all that. I didn't want to have to do all that. So I am excited to try out the all-in-one paint for the first time with you. And it's going to make the shutter painting in my life a lot easier. The first thing I want to do though, because I don't want to just have the plain shutter, I want it to be usable and functional. We need to put together some shelves. So what I did do was I measured the width of this, and because I have lots of it in the shop, I took some pallet wood, I don't need them to be big honking shelves. So I took some pallet wood and I cut them down to the width of this. I didn't feel that they would be particularly sturdy if I just left them to their own devices, right? If I just nailed in the wood. So I wanted to have a brace. And to do that, what I did was I took another piece of the wood and I measured out 5 inches long, drew my line. Okay, so I'll just use the brace to show you. So I measured out my 5 inches, right? Cindy, make a square. Cut off this piece and then cut it in half again to create 2 little braces for my shelves. So that's what I've got. I figure I'm going to put 3 shelves on there. And so I do have my 3 boards. And what I wanted to start with before I tried nailing, because this is going to be really awkward. And excuse my extra piece of paper here. I had a big glue explosion. So what I wanted to do, because just nailing this in is going to be hard with the pointy bit. So what I wanted to do was just kind of wood glue them in place, give that a chance to dry a bit to give it a little bit more support. And then we can look at nailing them. But what I also thought was it would be so much easier to not attach them to my shutter until my shutter was painted. So what we're going to do is we're going to get these shelves glued. So I'm going to take some of my exploding glue here. Yay. So I have a big mess to clean up afterward. And I'm going to get these glued on to each of my 3 shelves. Let them dry a bit. I want them to be fairly firm. And then we'll be able to put some nails into them. And then we can get everything painted up. I'll come back to you at that point. So I'm gonna have to go in search of containers to put my excess glue in now. Because this jar no longer has a lid. It all just kind of cracked and exploded as I was trying to squeeze it out. So I did manage to fill up 1 container. Now I gotta look for some other containers and deal with that mess. Hopefully not an indication of how the whole project is going. Just a little mishap at the beginning. All right, so I'm gonna glue up the other 2 shelves, get those little braces just kind of anchored in a little bit before we come back and we start nailing and painting. Okay. So these have had time for the glue to kind of hold, and you can see because I'm using my pneumatic gun, I hate holding these in place with my hands. I get freaked out a little bit thinking I'm gonna shoot a nail through my hand. I'm a self-acknowledged klutz, and if it's possible for me to nail into my hand, I would. So I wanted the glue to hold it so that I can make sure that my hand is nowhere near the gun. Sometimes it's good just to acknowledge your strengths and some of your weaknesses, some of your flaws. None of us are perfect at everything. That's one of mine. I'm a bit of a klutz. So I work with it. You know, I'll work with power tools, so I'm just gonna nail the third one, and then we're good to go with starting to do some painting. So I will break open my brand new Jamie Ray Cottage Colored paints, and we'll get going. I'm excited to be opening this for the first time. So these new cottage colors, they are by DIY. They are curated by Jamie Ray Vintage. And right now there are 5 colors in the line. Paint blue, vintage mint, vintage pink, gray skies, which is perfect for doing some stenciling and having a bit of a darker tone, and then white linen, which is a bright, pure white, no undertones. So paint blue, if you've ever seen like down south, they will often paint the inside, the upper roof, the inside part of the roof of their front porches in a paint blue, which is supposed to deter bugs, right? So it's a very soft, very light, kind of creamy blue. And that's what we're gonna do this shutter. So the idea with this is we are going to paint the entire shutter in this color. Just this lovely, soft, you know, it's just such a lovely blue. It's not a baby blue. It's got this kind of the soft color to it, so it's not falling into a turquoise. It's not a duck egg. It's just beauty. So we're gonna get this painted, and we are also going to get all 3 shelves painted. And I wanted to get them all painted before I attach the shelves, just to make my life a lot easier. It will be easier. I mean, you know what? The slats are challenging enough, or enough of a pain anyway. They're not tough, they're just a pain. And adding then trying to paint the slats in and around some of the braces and the shelving just adds to it. So much easier to get it all done separately, and then we will attach them up. But this is going on wonderfully. And again, with the built-in sealer to it, just such a bonus. So I'm gonna get all this painted up. You don't need to watch me do that. And then I'll come back at you as we carry on to the next steps, the other things that I have in mind for this. Oh, it's gonna look so nice and bright and clean. Can't wait. Okay, we have got 2 very quick coats of the paint blue onto the shutter. Now, the back is not done because, of course, the back isn't going to be seen. It's going to be up against a wall. But what I do want to do before I start putting shelving on and everything on the front is I do want to put the hanging hardware onto the back. Just because that makes my life a lot easier rather than trying to put it on after the fact. So I have a big honking sawtooth hanger on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so because of that, I can just use it to measure. I know that this is 18 inches across, 9 inches in the middle, and I'm just gonna hang it so that it sits with the middle notch dead on center. So I'm going to get this screwed on, so I've got the hanging hardware on the back, and then we'll be able to work together on the front and get that part done. Okay, hanging hardware is on. This is the bottom of my shutter. What I do have are some kind of off-white ivory knobs that I think are going to look great there. And what I want to do is get them attached before I start nailing in shelves and things. Again, just a little bit easier. So I do know that I want one in the middle. They're about perfect. So right down about here. And so I'm going to drill my holes through to allow my screws to be able to go through. And I'll drill all 3 of those just to get started here. Okay, so my holes are drilled, that part's done, that's good to go. And put those on after. Now, for my shelves, what I am gonna do, 1, 2, 3, 4, and across here, is this is now where my shelves are going to sit. So I do need to use my gun and get those nailed into place. So whatever way makes it easier for you to be able to do that is perfect. So I am going to get one side done. Let me get my gun. So I'm going to get one side done, and then I can do the next. So the last thing to do is to attach our knobs. Now I drilled these holes just big enough for these screws to go through. So I'm going to be screwing them from the back to the front. And then I'll be able to attach my knob. So just make sure that you don't over drill the hole size for these. You know, if you put the screw in, I mean, the head might be wide enough to keep it in place, but it's gonna make your knob be a little bit wobbly, right? And you don't need to have tons of screw sticking out the front for it, but you have to have enough for the knob to be able to grab. And then I can just screw that knob into place. Okay, awesome. I got 2 more to go, and then I'll be back at you. And there we have it. We have this cute little shelving unit with some little knobs on the bottom. And here's the thing. I got the shutter for free. It was stacked out by a neighbor's garbage. It happened to be brand new. They were throwing out new shutters. But I rescued it. The wood that I used was from an old pallet that I broke apart. And these little knobs I got from the Restore. So I think that they were 50 cents each. So I'm $1.50 in plus paint and a couple of screws, a piece of hanging hardware. So very inexpensive project because people get rid of these old shutters all the time. You don't need to use brand new. But this was my first attempt using the new all-in-one paint, and man, did that speed the process up. I really like the finish. It's kind of a satin, so it's not super glossy, which some of the all-in-ones are. If you want glossy, I mean, you could do a gloss coat over top of it, but it's got a really nice finish to it. It's smooth because it self-levels, but it's not super slick. It's got a little bit more of that finished chalk paint feel to it, which I love. So I am going to be using more of this paint to really trial it out with some other projects. But first attempt with this, really, really loved it. And especially for doing something like this with the slats that are just a pain to paint normally, let alone, you know, I'm painting 2 coats and then I'm doing wax, or, you know, and I have to buff it back, or I'm doing, it saves an entire step. And it went on so smooth, so easy, that really the painting was a breeze. Hope you give it a try. Certainly, you know, you can check out the website, queenbeecreationshome.com, for all of the paint and supplies. But let me know how you think this turned out. I think it's a super cute idea and so practical and basically free. As always, love to hear from you guys, and until the next time, take care.